Morning, Kuhner country. Okay, huge developments now in the war with Iran. We're going to get to that, I promise. But the war has now come home. So, I was meaning to discuss this yesterday, but obviously there was bigger news developing on the diplomatic front regarding the war with Iran. But on Saturday, let me be very crystal clear. The pro-Mullah terrorist sympathizers in this country made their first move in the United States at a major anti-Muslim rally in New York. Two, not one, but two ISIS terrorists who are both U.S. citizens. They're Americans. One, an individual by the name of Ibrahim Qayyumi, or Qayyumi, 19 years old, and Amir Balat, 18 years old. Both of them come from successful immigrant families in the suburbs of Philadelphia. Tried to launch a devastating IED attack, and here is exactly what took place. They drove up from their suburban, by the way, very upscale suburban neighborhood where they both lived with their parents. And then they went into New York City to target an anti-Muslim rally and the people who were participating in that anti-Muslim rally. They came up with two IEDs known, because they're so devastating, the mother of Satan. That's what these IEDs are called, the mother of Satan. It is essentially an improvised homemade bomb packed with nails, bolts, and nuts, and then wrapped together with and sealed with a very deadly, volatile explosive. It is commonly used by ISIS in IED attacks, roadside attacks, terrorist attacks, all across the Middle East. Both of these young men, 119, 118, as I said, went overseas and apparently trained with ISIS in Turkey. So they went abroad to train with ISIS to create and develop and detonate these IEDs. They then struck at about 11:30-ish or noon at the rally in downtown New York City. One of them, Amir Balat, can be seen on video, actually, tossing. He lit the fuse. It's lighting up. It's going to blow. He then threw it, hurled it at the crowd, at those participating in this protest against the Islamic takeover of New York City. By the grace of God, according to New York Police Department Commissioner Jessica Tisch, the bomb did not go off. Amir Balat then ran back to his friend, Qayyumi. Qayyumi then gave him another IED, lit it, and now he had a live bomb on him, holding it. Police began to run after him. He then basically tossed the bomb or dropped the bomb in front of two pursuing police officers. He then jumped over the barricade. The two police officers, not knowing whether the IED was even going to detonate, it could have easily detonated. They both would have been dead. They would have been shredded, eviscerated from the nails, the bolts, the nuts. Instead, they pursued him and eventually were able to catch Amir Balat. And then later they were able to capture his co-conspirator, this Ibrahim Qayyumi. Now, we are extremely fortunate that both bombs did not go off. That was a pure fluke. It was pure luck. Both had highly volatile, deadly explosives, as I said, packed with nails, packed with bolts, packed with nuts. The damage would have been immense, especially in such an intense, closely congested crowd. We would have been looking at countless dead, countless maimed. In fact, these bombs are designed and built not just to kill, but to maim, to cause maximum damage. They yelled out, Allah Akbar. In fact, they yelled it out as they tossed the IEDs into the crowd. Then when they were arrested, they were taken to a police car. Somebody shouted out, "Why did you do it?" One of them, it was, I believe it's Amir Balat, but don't quote me on this. It was either Qayyumi or Balat. But one of the two said, "We did it for ISIS," and they flashed the one finger ISIS sign. They then again shouted out, "Allah Akbar." At the police station, both men signed confessions saying that they pledge allegiance to ISIS, that this was an ISIS-inspired terrorist attack, and that their goal was to create even more havoc and have a bigger, deadlier bombing than the Boston Marathon bombing here in 2013. When asked, what was your intent? Was it to be something like the Boston Marathon bombing, where homemade bombs were used to target innocent civilians? Their response, that only led to 3 killed. We wanted something much bigger. We wanted to kill dozens and dozens and dozens. Now, as all of this is taking place, what the media is deliberately trying to sweep under the rug is that both men aren't just pledging loyalty to ISIS, didn't just target anti-Muslim protesters, but clearly did this in a sign of solidarity with the Iranian mullahs and hoping to create as much havoc and chaos here at home to slaughter as many Americans, kill as many Americans as part of Iran's global jihad and holy war declared against the United States and the West in the wake now of this Iran war. In other words, the war has now come home. And my fear is you are going to see many more of these jihadist Islamic terrorist style attacks unfold over the next couple days or the next couple of weeks, as long as this war continues. And the next time we may not be so lucky. The next time it may be dozens of bodies, dead or crippled or maimed, on the streets of either New York City or in Boston or Chicago or LA or wherever these sleeper cells are being activated. Now, one key point I want to stress, ISIS is active within Iran. People don't know this, but ISIS actually has places where they train and have a network within Iran. They use Iran as a shield to continue their terrorist activity and to train and recruit fighters. So this connection between ISIS and Iran has gone back now for many, many years. Now, what to me is even more disturbing than the fact that the war has now come home is when you look at these two men, okay, or whatever. The media is calling them teenagers. They're both old enough to vote. They're both old enough to, technically, not that they want to, because they keep chanting death to America, but both of them could join the military. And so they have gone from the American dream to death to America. One of them, Amir Balat, parents came from Turkey. They're Turks. And both parents were naturalized in 2017. As I said, Balat himself is a U.S. citizen. The other co-conspirator, the 19-year-old Qayyumi, both of his parents came from Afghanistan. By the way, all the parents are Muslims. One parent was naturalized in 2004, U.S. citizen. The other one, 2009, U.S. citizen. They live in a very upper middle class neighborhood. In fact, Qayumi, his parents from Afghanistan, own a convenience store, and they live, listen to this, it's a mansion. I'm telling you, it's a palace. $2.25 million. That's the value of the home that they live in. You guys, it's huge. And it faces water as well. It's waterfront property. Gorgeous home in a gorgeous, quiet, idyllic suburb. The other one lives in a $638,000 house just about 12 miles away in another upper middle class suburb. So the point is this. Both of these came from prosperous, successful immigrant families. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, my friends, look, if I'm not here to speak the truth, then honestly, what's the point of me being behind this microphone? So here you have two Islamic terrorists, American citizens, one 18 years old, the other one 19. One set of parents. By the way, all the parents are Muslim immigrants, just so that we're clear. And one of them comes from Turkey, naturalized in 2017. They live, forgive me, I said 638,000, my bad. They live in a $653,000 home in a very nice upper middle class neighborhood in the suburbs of Philadelphia. So they've done very well for themselves. You have another one, this Jumi guy, or Qayumi, however you pronounce his last name, who, 19 years old, whose parents came from Afghanistan, again, both of them Muslim migrants, naturalized American citizens in 2004 and then in 2009. They own a convenience store. Now, I don't know how many Slurpees you sell and cigarettes and lottery tickets to afford a $2.25 million mansion in one of the nicest neighborhoods, idyllic suburbs in Philadelphia. So, number one, I want to know if there was welfare theft and fraud involved. I followed the money because the last time I checked, yeah, you make a nice living owning a convenience store. How does it get you a multi-million-dollar mansion? And by the way, you should see the cars in the driveway. Okay, these are some nice SUVs. So clearly I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, is there some fraud here that we've missed? Or did they bring money back from Afghanistan, illicit money? Anyway, that follow the money. Okay, that to me is point number one. Because that's a lot of Slurpees and that's a lot of lottery tickets, all right, that you have to sell to live in a mansion in a palace like that. Okay, but let that go. They went to all-American high schools, both of them. Family, friends, neighbors, all of them say the parents immensely economically successful. That the community welcomed them with open arms. With open arms. And this is the thanks that we get. This is the thanks that we get. And by the way, everyone is claiming that they were radicalized online, that the parents couldn't have been involved, the family couldn't have been involved, the community couldn't have been involved. And I'm like, okay, so you're telling me that this is going on, that they're watching all these ISIS videos and mom and dad have no clue? They have no idea what Junior is doing in the bedroom, hours after hour, hour after hour after hour, day after day after day. And both of them end up taking trips to Turkey, overseas trips, where apparently they were in ISIS training camps. And the parents are just completely oblivious. Hey, where's little Amir? Oh, he's in Turkey. What's he doing in Turkey? Hanging out with his buddies at some place called ISIS camp. ISIS summer camp. Yeah, that's what it's called. ISIS summer camp. So, to me, I'm sorry, there has to be a much deeper investigation on the complicity of the parents, the complicity of the family, because I don't believe this narrative that the media is selling us. I just don't. Okay? But I want to get to the heart of the matter, even more than that. You come to this country. You're U.S. citizens of this country. You're raised in this country. You're given everything. You achieve the American dream. You live better than 95% of most Americans. And you turn to terrorism and jihadism? You end up at 18, 19 years old perfecting the art of building a homemade IED packed with explosives and nails and bolts and nuts that will shatter the human body to deliberately maim and cause maximum damage and pain and suffering to fellow Americans in the name of imposing Sharia law and siding with Iran in the midst of a war in which 8 American soldiers have now died. And we've got how many? 40, 50,000 troops who are putting their life on the line. You side with the Islamic enemy against the United States. This is what 18, 19 years in America and being raised here, this is what it's led to. I'm sorry. If no one else has the guts to say it, I'm going to say it. I said it on X. People didn't like it. I'm going to say it again. It's time to ban all Muslim immigration, period. I'm done. I'm done. Like, if this doesn't convince you, I don't know what won't, what will. How much better can you have it? How much more welcoming can you be? No, really. $2.5 million mansion. $650,000. By the way, one is the one that's $650. That house, 3,800 square feet, multiple bathrooms, multiple bedrooms. You got to see the pictures. It's a stunning home. Most Americans don't live in that home, that kind of home. The other one is almost 6,000 square feet. Okay, what is it? 4 floors, overlooking a lake. Worth almost $2.5 million. Every opportunity, every privilege, every benefit was given to you. And you still turn out to be a freaking suicide bomber or whatever, a terrorist who wanted to kill fellow Americans and maybe get yourself blown up in the process? No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I've had enough. It's one after another after another. Where they come into our country and they take advantage of our freedom, our generosity, everything we've given them. Okay, I was just saying this to Mike. I said, Mike, I want you to just stand back, okay, objectively. You are raised in a country where you live in a palace. $2.5 million. And I'm just going by what, all the local reports, media reports from friends, neighbors, family members, high school teachers, principals, everybody. Warmly accepted. They always had cash money on them. They went out for pizza, burgers, shakes, you name it. They were living the American dream. You could not be better treated. Upper middle class. To me, a $2.5 million home is upper class, but let that go, okay? The media keeps describing it as upper middle class. So you have everything. Literally, you have everything. They were they had the latest video games. They had the best clothes. What didn't they have? And you turn 18, 19, and literally your expertise in life is to make these homemade IEDs to maim and kill your fellow Americans. Now, you tell me, in all honesty, we're going to keep bringing people like this into our country? In other words, the proof is in the pudding. No matter how good you are, no matter how much you bend over backwards, no matter how many opportunities they have, no matter how privileged they are. Okay, they live better than 95 to 98% of most Americans. And they still, some of them, turn up terrorist ISIS bombers or wannabe bombers. Because we happen to be at war now with Iran. So they put Islamic supremacy over any allegiance to America. I'm done. I mean, how many times does this have to keep happening to us? Seriously, how many times? Now, just very, very quick, because I want to go to the phone lines. What has also been absolutely disgraceful in all of this is that sick Islamo-communist mayor who is driving New York City into the ground. And that, of course, is Zoran Mamdani. Unbelievably, he's claimed for 24 hours that these two jihadists, these two Islamic terrorists, that they were actually white supremacists, and that it was white supremacists who threw or hurled those two IEDs, those two bombs. So he was trying to blame all of this on white supremacy and nothing to do with radical Islam, ISIS, the war in Iran, or Islamic terrorism in general. And then he had to grudgingly admit that they weren't white supremacy, but hold on. No. According to him, equally to blame is the anti-Muslim takeover of New York City rally. He said, well, no. They were just counter-protesters. These two terrorists. Okay, Balat and Qayoumi. They're like, no, they were counter-protesters. They were provoked, according to Mamdani, because of the white supremacists protesting in that anti-Islam or anti-Muslim rally. I'm telling you, you can't make this stuff up. Mamdani's people held a counter-protest to this anti-Muslim rally. It was much bigger in size than the few people that showed up to protest this Islamic takeover of New York City. And furthermore, before that, Mamdani's people came out to mourn the death of the supreme leader of Iran, Ali Khamenei. His people turned out and mourned. They had a protest mourning him, the death of the supreme leader, calling him a martyr, and then chanting, soon Iran's missiles will fly. Soon Iran's missiles will fly. In other words, openly siding with the Iranian mullahs against us. That's the kind of traitor and the kind of scumbag, radical Islamic, Jew-hating, anti-American scumbag that Mamdani is. He is siding with Iran. He is siding and sympathizing with these two wannabe jihadists. You can't make this up. And then to put the cherry on top of the sort of the final slap in the face. So one slap, second slap, third slap, fourth slap, fifth slap. His wife, it has come out, his lunatic, Jew-hating, anti-Semitic wife. Her posts in the aftermath of the October 7 Hamas massacre. This woman is sick. She's sick. Post after post where she is celebrating, approving, supporting the murder of Jewish children, the rape of Israeli women. And Mamdani is defending his wife. He's saying she has the right to her opinion. How dare you violate her privacy? This woman is on Facebook or X or wherever, publicly telling the world, yeah, rape these women, kill these kids, wipe out the Jews. And this guy, the mayor of New York, is, You really shouldn't be violating her privacy. I mean, the woman has the right to her opinion, for God's sake. I'm sorry, okay? But I have to say it. Those crazy left-wingers that voted for this Islamo-communist, you're getting what you voted for. You get it. You're getting what you voted for. You wanted a Muslim extremist, you got a Muslim extremist. You wanted a communist, you're getting a communist. You wanted an anti-American Jew hater, you're getting an anti-American Jew hater. And you now have a mayor in the middle of a war that is openly siding with the country we are at war with. Now, where I come from, there's a word for that. It's called treason. And I want you to stand back, and it's my final point, and stand back and objectively. I want to ask you this. If I said to you 25 years ago, because this September 11th is going to be the 25th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks. If I said to you 25 years ago, in 25 years, you're going to have a radical Muslim mayor, a Jew-hating, anti-Semitic, anti-American mayor, who will openly side with Islamic terrorists and openly side with the mullahs in Iran. And when two crazed ISIS terrorists hurl IED explosives, homemade bombs, at American citizens, he will side with the two terrorists against the peaceful protesters. And this will happen in New York in 25 years. I'm telling you, they would have said you're crazy. They would have said, lock him up. Here, if I said that to them 25 years ago, Kuhner, I don't know if you're on drugs. I don't know what the hell's going on. I don't know if you're drinking. I don't know what the hell's, I don't know if you've lost your mind. But you know what? Kuhner, you need to be put in a mental asylum because you're not right in the head. 25 years. Look how much New York, look how much our country has changed. 617-266-6868. I want to ask all of you, has the war now come home? My question now to you, has the war come home? Russ in Boston, you're going to kick us off, Russ. Thanks for holding and welcome.
Long live American conservatism. God bless all conservatives. Let's face it, Jeff, this is a result of an insane immigration policy that allows people to immigrate who do not want to assimilate. Their radical goal is to transform America by recruiting brainwashed fools, okay? And let's not forget this. The Trojan horse Obama, his goal is the same, transform America. What the radicals and the loyal Democrats have in common is both have been brainwashed, without a shadow of a doubt. And I'll tell you, my attitude is this. Either assimilate into this country or get the hell out of here, okay? And this insanity of making ballots in multi-languages and all this foolishness that's gone on with liberal insanity, Jeff. And honestly, I have had enough of it, okay? And I'll tell you, I could talk so much about this. But you know what? During World War II, we Americans of Italian descent, we showed our loyalty to this country, even though we were at war with Germany and Italy, that more Americans of Italian descent joined the military than any other ethnic group. What are the Muslims doing to show their loyalty against radical Islam in the United States of America? They're not doing too much, are they, relatively speaking?
Russ, I mean, it's the exact opposite. I mean, just look at Mamdani, look at Ilhan Omar, look at Rashida Tlaib. I could go on and on. They're openly siding with Iran. I mean, I'm sorry to say it, but it's true. They're openly siding. Look, whatever your feelings about the war, okay, just, so that everybody is clear, no one wants the enemy to win. Okay, is it in our interest? Is it not in our interest? Well, whatever, okay. But that's for, argument about what's best for the United States, what's in our long-term interest. But they're making a very different argument. Their argument is, no, they side with the Ayatollahs. They side with the mullahs. They side with radical Islam and the global caliphate against America. Now, when you start rooting for Americans to die and you start rooting for America to lose, why are you in our country? And Russ, look, let me get to the heart of the matter, and I want to ask you this, and frankly, the whole audience, because I don't want to skirt around the issue, because the media does. By the way, have you seen the media coverage? What a joke. They're claiming that these two IEDs were found at the rally. Found at the rally. Like they just, fell out of the sky. Like they were just, oh, look at this. Ooh, an IED. Oh, my God, a homemade bomb that can kill dozens of people. How did it get here? No, they were hurled. They were thrown. That's how. They were made by these two psychos, and they threw them and hurled them. That's how they got there. Duh. Okay? Russ, in France, okay, just so that people understand, that, because it's happening all over Europe, the French took in many Algerian migrants. And the first generation that they took in, they worked hard, they paid taxes, they came from a lot of poverty. And so people were saying, well, they're going to assimilate. Algerians speak French and they're getting jobs. And, their kids were born in France. They start going to French schools. And this is what the French are being stunned. They're shocked that the children are much more radical and pro-Islamist and pro-ISIS and pro-terrorist than the parents. So the French are like, I don't understand this. We bring in the parents. We give them refuge in France. Many of them do very well. They're rising. They're not owning $2.5 million homes, but let that go. They're rising. But their children who were born in France, went to French schools, ate French food, were given all the privileges and rights of a French citizen. All they want to do now is destroy France and place bombs everywhere. Now, come to America. You bring in their parents. Take these two. They got mansions. They live in beautiful upscale neighborhoods. The kids go to the best schools. They drive the best cars. They were welcomed with open arms. Now, let's just assume that the media narrative is correct, that the parents were clueless about this. I don't believe it, but let that go. So what does that say about Islam? You bring them in. The parents seem to do well financially. You give them every privilege and benefit in the world, every right in the world, but their children end up embracing the most vile, radical, extremist ideology possible, and they want to become holy warriors and terrorists? There is something within Islam that continues to promote violence and hatred against non-Muslims. And it doesn't matter. It may wait a generation. It may wait 2 generations. But it's like a poison. It's just there. Am I wrong, Russ?
Well, when you look through history, how brainwashing works, okay? And let me give you an example of it, okay? Let's not forget Lenin, okay, who pushed the Russian Revolution and everything, because called those that helped him useful idiots. But beyond that, okay, his political prisoners were put in prison, okay? And when they died, many of them wept. They were so stupid and brainwashed that they didn't even realize that he put them there, Jeff, okay? That's what's unbelievable about brainwashing, how people can be manipulated, okay? And that's what we have to do. We have to stop the manipulation. And what I'm about to say, a lot of people are not going to like this, but we have to infiltrate these mosques, and we have to shut down all these radicals that are preaching radical Islam. That's the problem in this country. In this country, as you just said, it's the problem across the free world, without question, okay? It is insane, Jeff. You've let evil people invade your home. That's what we've done. It's insane.
Russ, I want to thank you for your courage because you're completely right. Really. And, look, this puts the lie, it should put it should put to rest the lie. What the liberals in the media keep saying, Islamophobia, racism against Muslims, and that's what's marginalizing them, and it's just leading them to embrace this radicalism and this Sharia and terrorism and ISIS, and you're pushing them to become extremists because you're just not accepting them in the mainstream of American society. How much more mainstream? Listen, I don't live in a $2.5 million home. Do you? I don't have a fleet of SUVs in my driveway. Do you? I don't have money to send my kid flying around Turkey and have to, halfway around the world in the Middle East to go to terrorist training camps. Do you? I mean, you look at the way these two kids lived. They had it all. They had it all. Again, not to beat a dead horse, they had more than 95% of Americans. And look, honestly, become a spoiled rich kid, okay? Spend your time on video games, whatever. A woke liberal, jerk. You send them to the best schools, and look, they all sound like Bernie Sanders. Okay, whatever. But no. Death to America. Allah Akbar. And the accent, listen to the way they said it. It wasn't even with an English twist or an English accent to it. It was in perfect Arabic. In fact, if you want to know what one of them wrote, this Amir Balat, this is what he wrote in his statement. Okay? He talked about, and this is an ISIS term, rage. He said, you infidel, rage, you kafir, you kufar, Kuffar. Kufar is an Arabic term for an infidel or a non-believer. But how do I say this? It's sort of like the N-word. When they sit around, they go, kufar. It's like lowlife, like the N-word, like less than, like scum. Non-believing, infidel, scum. Okay? Like, non-believing N. It's deeply contemptuous, deeply insulting. That's what 18 years of prosperity and being given everything, the American dream. That's what they've created here. No more. I'm telling you, no more. That's it. I don't want to hear about there are some good Muslims. I'm sure there are, of course, but that's irrelevant now. That's irrelevant because look at the non-good ones. Look what they turn into, and they do it in every country around the world, over and over and over again. Now. And Russ, thank you very much for that call. President Trump yesterday, okay, this is big news, and I want to tie it into this story and obviously continue to take calls. President Trump yesterday gave an interview to CBS. In that interview with CBS, he said that the war now is basically practically over. Or as he put it, it's pretty much complete. As he put it, pretty much complete. And when pressed, he said, no, it will be over now very soon. Like, this is not going to go on for another 3-4 weeks. We're now at the end stage of the war. And that took everybody by surprise. I mean, everybody. Everybody's like, what does this mean? Everybody's trying to figure it out. Now, that was in a sit-down interview. So he also gave a speech, and he said pretty much the same thing. This is what he said. This was in Florida after a meeting with Republicans at a press conference. Listen now to President Trump, because in his speech to the Republicans, he said, look, I know many of you are angry about the high gas prices, the political backlash, the fact that, this is not what you thought we were going to be doing. We're heading into a midterms, into an election year. But he said, this is really an excursion. And he said it's going to be a short excursion, but we needed to do it. So he's asked about, well, you call this an excursion. Do you mean you're thinking of wrapping up the war now? Listen to Trump's response. Roll cut 5A, Mike.
On Iran, you called it an excursion. You said it would be over soon. Are you thinking this week it will be over?
No,
Are you talking
but soon.
about days?
I think soon.
Okay, and with respect
Very soon. Look, everything they have is gone, including their leadership. In fact, there are two levels of leadership, and even actually, as it turns out, more than that. But two levels of leadership are gone. Most people have never even heard about the leaders that they're talking about. So it's obviously been very, very powerful, very effective.
So Trump now saying that the Operation Epic Fury will be over, quote unquote, very soon. Now, I think one of the reasons, there are multiple reasons, but I think one of the reasons why he's saying, you know what, let's wrap this thing up as quickly as possible is because he saw that shooting in Texas where that crazy migrant from Senegal with the Iranian shirt, and he had an Iranian flag in his home and pictures of the Ayatollah and shot up a bar and killed 3 people and wounded 14. And then he looks at what's happening in New York City with these 2 jihadists. And I'm sure intelligence is telling him Iran is activating their sleeper cells. And I think he's telling himself, I don't want to start seeing dead Americans here on the streets of the United States with their dismembered bodies. Boston Marathon bombings here, there, everywhere. Because that's what these 2 whack jobs said, that their goal was to do another Boston Marathon bombing, but 3 dead was not enough for them. They wanted dozens dead. And so I think it's not the only reason, but I'm just saying I think it's one of the reasons where Trump is saying, look, I don't want this war to come home. So let's wrap this up as quickly as possible and achieve as many of our objectives as we can, and then let's move on. Let's move on, declare victory, and and focus on a domestic agenda, the SAVE Act in particular, getting gas prices back down, getting the economy roaring again, so we don't get wiped out in the midterms in November. And so let me throw this log on the fire. Trump now says the war may end very soon. In fact, he's opening the door now, saying that he may even leave the leadership or the Iranian mullah regime intact. In other words, there won't be regime change. And what his advisors are starting to tell him in private, is that they don't see a partner to work with. Trump would love to see the Ayatollahs fall, but the Iranian people so far are not rising, and they can't find a viable alternative that could get some kind of support, mass support in the country. And so here, I'll even play you the cut. Trump says, look, I want to work with somebody, but if there's nobody to work with, in other words, I wanted a pragmatist. I was hoping that somebody there would be, semi-sane, pragmatic, like we did in Venezuela, and say, yeah, let's make a deal with the United States and we can start developing our country, in exchange for which we won't have a nuclear program anymore, no ballistic missiles, we're not going to threaten our neighbors. We'll be a normal, semi-sane, developing, semi-normal country again. He says, we're not finding anybody in the leadership, second level, third level, that is even willing to be pragmatic and work with us. And he goes on to say that the choice of the son of Khamenei as the new supreme leader, Moshtaba Khamenei, he said is a big disappointment. Because what that shows to him is the hardliners are entrenched, the hardliners are in charge, and you just can't make a deal with these crazed mullahs. Roll cut 3A. This is again Trump at the press conference in Florida. Roll cut 3A. Mike.
You have to take him out. Does he have a target on his back?
You mean the new supreme leader? You mean the son?
How can there be an Iran?
Well,
with
I don't want to say that, but I was disappointed because we think it's going to lead to just more of the same problem for the country. So I was disappointed to see their choice.
So here we are. What is it? Day 10, day 11. We have struck over 5,000 targets across Iran. Their Navy is gone. Their Air Force is gone. Their communications is gone. Their ballistic missiles are being depleted. Their launchers are being destroyed. And yet the Ayatollahs say they're going to continue to block the Strait of Hormuz. And yesterday they threatened the United States and the world, saying we are going to drive oil up to $200 a barrel if we have to. We're going to block the strait. We're going to make sure that no oil from these Persian Gulf countries, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, that none of it is able to reach world markets. And that's going to lead to oil shocks and inflation and oil going up and up and up, creating a global recession, both around the world and here in the United States. And, Trump is now being urged strongly by his advisors, declare victory and go home. You've pushed back you've pushed back their military program, their military ballistic infrastructure, their nuclear program. At least you set it back at least a decade. You've badly damaged the mullahs, and it's going to take them a long time to recover. Declare victory and go home. And so my question to you, do you think what's happening in New York City, do you think the fear of sleeper cells, is that also a consideration for Trump to end this war and end it fast? 617-266-6868. Eddie in Maine. Thanks for holding, Eddie, and welcome.
Good morning, Kuhner man. How are we doing?
Very good. How are you, Eddie?
We're always talking about history repeating itself. This is another example. It's the same as World War II when we were fighting Japan. We destroyed their Navy. We destroyed their Army. We destroyed their Air Force. We dropped one atomic bomb on them, wouldn't surrender. Dropped a second atomic bomb on them, did not want to surrender. We had to give the guy, the supreme leader, whatever you call him, a pardon. Let him hang around in Hollywood. So maybe we should make the same offer to this new supreme leader. We'll give you a pardon. Come on over here to Disneyland. Might cheer you up a little bit. You know what I mean? But all we're doing is we're supposed to. President Trump is talking about pulling out. What about all this nuclear material we've been hearing about? That's going to stay there? What happens from there? Israel fought a war, destroyed their city. Their troops over, forgive me, I'm talking too quick, but they talking about surrendering and giving up their weapons. Did they? No, they go into the underground. They're waiting for the next one. All these people are going to do is wait 3 more years, and Trump should be out of office, and our idiots here are going to vote in Democrats, and they'll start building up again. And I don't know what to tell. You, Kuhner man, but something more harsher has to be done to these people, because they're just not going to lay down. They'll lay down for a little while. Remember one thing in their religion: it's okay to lie, as long as you get the job done.
And it's okay to die. You're right, Eddie. And just to add, it's okay to lie. It's okay to die. That's the thing about Islam. That's what's been driving it for 1,500 years, is that you die as a martyr, you go to heaven. You're guaranteed, as they say, your 72 virgins. That's, by the way, that's what these two, that's what they said. They go, we wanted to die. We want our 72 virgins. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, just very quick. This is literally breaking as I speak. They found more IEDs, improvised explosive devices. By the way, these are IEDs very much made by ISIS. They have the imprimatur of ISIS. They're called the mother of Satan. It's a particular type of IED. It's actually very simple to make. It is packed with nails, nuts, bolts, and then it's put together in a container, a small container, held together by construction tape. But it is also on the inside packed with a very powerful, highly volatile explosive. And so it's cheap to make, it's easy to make, but it's very deadly. And you light a fuse, and then you've got about 5 seconds, and you throw it, and normally it detonates. And when it does, the explosive generates so much internal power that the nails, the nuts and bolts just go flying at high velocity, high speed, and they pierce the body parts of anybody who's within a 25, 30 foot radius. They are, it's barbaric, but they are brutally effective. And people get killed, people get maimed, people's body parts fly off. It's a horrific weapon. Well, the two that they threw at New York City at that rally, that was opposing the Islamic takeover of New York City, they were aiming at that crowd. By the grace of God, neither of them detonated. However, they went to a Pennsylvania storage facility near the homes of where these two jihadists live with their parents, and they have now found a lot. I don't know how many, but they're saying they found many more of these IEDs. So they weren't planning just, 2 bombs and done. They were planning to rampage across the United States in retaliation for the war with Iran. 617-266-6868. Angelo in Rockland. Thanks for holding, Angelo, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff. Good morning. Yeah. Isn't it amazing that what two people can do when they're radicalized? That being said, they put 85,000 Somalis in. They are not going to assimilate. They make them U.S. citizens, so it's hard to get them out. I'll be honest with you. I'd get the C-1s over there. I'd get the National Guard. I'd line them all up and politely walk them out and fly them back to Somalia. That's what's got to be done. These people have been here Somalia's only been here for a few years, those 85,000. But these other families that are here, it just goes to show you they will not assimilate. And that's what we're up against. But, being United States citizens, we're softened, we're loving people, and we're very patriotic. If the crap hits the fan, we'll have to act. But that being said, we let them in our society hoping that they'll assimilate and be warm, loving people as we are. But they will not do it. And being Americans, our guard is down because we like to help people. We like to do the right thing. But we can't swallow the fact that they are here to take us over. They've been doing it for 3,500 years in the Middle East. And now we got 85,000. They're not even been here for 10 years, let's say. But wait till they really get in. Look at New York. Look what's going on with one man in New York, and you can't do nothing about it. What are you going to do when these 85,000 start getting positions in government and so on? That's what we're up against. We're at war now. I hear you saying that they're here, they're going to start acting, they're going to do this, they're going to do that. No, they're here, and they've been doing it, and they're doing it. They're not just starting. They've been doing it. Look at our government. They're here. They're entrenched. It's time to act. We're acting over there with our planes and everything. People here have to act, and it's about time we do something without getting violent. Thank God we have the Second Amendment, and that's a lot of weight.
That's a lot. No, I agree with you. That's a big difference between us and Europe. And thank the Lord for this. Again, the genius of the founding fathers. Genius. But no, look, Angelo, we're starting, not yet. We're not there yet, thank the Lord. But we're becoming slowly Western Europe. And look, in a way, it's easy to criticize their leadership. But if you were Macron, if you were Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of Britain, or the Chancellor of Germany, and you've got millions and millions and millions of hostile, restive, radical Muslims in your country, I don't know, would you join the war against Iran? I mean, I know it's, you want them to, they're allies, you're saying, well, they should be joining us. But, I mean, they're like, we've got millions of potential suicide bombers. And my question to them is, why'd you let them in? You let them in. That was your big mistake. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, I want to read, by the way, you can text the Kuhner Man, 70470, 70470. I want to read two absolutely brilliant texts. One is from 603. Jeff, and there's a picture, I don't know if you've seen it. I urge all of you, it's a picture, it's a liberal or a moonbat at this counter protest. Basically, it was called Drive the Nazis Out of New York. That was the counter protest to the anti-Muslim rally. And you see this young liberal white male with glasses on through a bullhorn, yelling and screaming Nazis, fascists against those that are there protesting Mamdani and the Muslim takeover of New York City. And so, and there's he's shocked. There's this, it's from the video, but he's shocked that the 18-year-old terrorist, Amir Balat, comes right behind him holding his IED, his homemade bomb, and he's hurling it right over the head of this liberal counter-protester, and the liberal counter-protester is like all shocked, like what's going on, as Balat is screaming, Allah Akbar. So he's yelling out, Allah Akbar. And he's throwing this, this improvised explosive device over the liberal counter-protester who's speaking head towards the crowd that was protesting Islam. So that's the picture. That's the image. Jeff, I want you to think of the irony of these two pictures. In the first one, you have a typical New York City liberal counter-protester with his bullhorn going on and on about how all of these Muslim immigrants are welcome and that they need to stay here. In the second picture, you see this young Muslim terrorist, a U.S. citizen, raised in America, hurling the bomb over this liberal idiot's head as he tries to duck out of the way. A picture tells 1,000 words. The liberal is saying we need people like Amir Balat. This is what's enriching us as a country. Don't you dare protest them and protest what they're doing to our country. As the guy in the next picture is literally hurling a destructive bomb at innocent, peaceful protesters. That says it all right there. And then 603 adds, Jeff, if these two guys had more IEDs made and ready to go in a storage unit, which they did, I guarantee you they didn't make all those bombs in just the short time since Iran was attacked. What they did Saturday may have been in retaliation for the war in Iran. But those IEDs testify to the fact that they've been planning to do harm here in America in the name of Islam for quite some time now. Bingo. Bingo. No, this was a planned, well-executed, well-thought-out attack, a terrorist attack, And only by the grace of God, it was a miracle, the 2 bombs did not detonate. About 96, 97% of the time they do. This is from 781. Jeff, when you're talking about the Islamic invasion and infiltration of the United States and the West, I am reminded of the poem that Trump read to his supporters called The Snake. It is 100% accurate. Remember that poem where Trump, powerfully reads it? And it says, you invite the snake in, you take care of the snake, feed the snake, clothe the snake, put a roof over the head of the snake, take care of the snake, give the snake everything, which is what happened to these 2 and their families. Hell, one's living in a $2.5 million mansion. The other one in a $650,000 beautiful suburban home. Had everything. And then the snake ends up killing the person who took him in. And the person's lying on the ground saying, you bit me. Why did you do that? And he said, I was a snake. I was a snake from the beginning. You didn't know my nature? You let me in and you thought what? I wasn't going to be a snake? You're the dumb one. Don't blame me, blame you. You let me in. We're letting in snakes. And now they're starting to bite. 617-266-6868. Rich in Hopkinton. Thanks for holding, Rich, and welcome. Oh, Rich, you are giving Bruce a run for his money, my friend. That was a nice moonbat howl.
Shout out to Bruce, yeah, and I threw in the Arabic at the end. That was an Arabic howl.
Rich, what do you make of all this, my friend?
I hate to say I'm not surprised, and I wanted to just comment on the brainwashing part. I've been saying this for years. These people, you kneel and pray 5 times a day, every day. You can brainwash anybody. And it just shocks me that, like you mentioned, these people, they come here, we allow them into the country. I'd like to see what mosque these kids were going to. I hope they're looking into that. I'm sure they're probably online as well. And I'm guessing probably the terrorist bomb maker that taught them is probably a DEI hire because they didn't go off. But
Rich, buddy, I got to ask you this. What about the parents? I mean, Rich, if your son is jaunting around Turkey, I mean, wouldn't you as the father or the mother, Junior, what are you doing in Turkey? Who are you spending time with? What camps are you going to? This idea, the way the media is the parents are just blindsided. They're shocked. I don't know. I want to know what they were taught at home as well. What say you, Rich?
Just don't assimilate well, and these kids, I'll call them kids because that's really what they are. At that age, they're easily manipulated, and I'm sure they came up with some story of why they were going over there. But apparently, one of the other guys' kids' families reported him missing after a couple hours or something. So maybe they knew he was up to something. I don't know.
Yeah, Rich, at 10:30, that's the one who was 19 years old, whose parents are from Afghanistan. And at 10:30, the mother called the police and said, my son is missing. And within an hour, about an hour later, they were already in New York City, and they were already about to attack, to throw those bombs. So I think maybe the mother suspected something was up. Rich, do you think it's time that we ban Muslim immigration?
That's a no-brainer. I mean, forget all the racist, Islamophobic, all that BS. We got to shut it down.
Well, it's now survival. It's basic civilizational survival. I mean, either that or we turn into Western Europe. And I don't want to become Western Europe. Rich, thank you very much for that call. I really appreciate it. Carlotta in Rhode Island. Thanks for holding, Carlotta, and welcome.
You're welcome, Jeff. This is really a clutching my pearls call. I have nothing intelligent to add. But, you know, you always bless the founding fathers. You always praise them. And certainly you should. But we elect people with such common sense, and then the laws exist for us to pay no attention to them. Because what did Trump say when he came in? Remember his Muslim ban? And the man was almost killed. Nobody listened. So,
you know, Carletta, it's funny you should say that, because that's what Sandy said to me off air. She said, you know, poor Trump, everybody called him a racist and names, and he was trying to prevent Muslims from coming into our country. And again, look, he was prophetic. He was completely right. Carlotta, please keep going. I didn't mean to cut you off, but what you're saying is pure common sense, but keep going.
He was not prophetic. He was a man who had done business around the world. He was a sophisticated man. He knew how cultures work. And we elected him.
Well, I mean, he certainly knows how Islam works. That's for sure. And he warned us and he told us. And now they're bringing the war home. Forrest on the North Shore. Thanks for holding, Forrest, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. So I was streaming through things the other day, and came across Mayor Wu, and she starts off her ad on TikTok is the Hamalakalayam or whatever, and she's holding a night of gathering for Muslims, inviting them all to Boston, the city of Boston, just in time for the marathon.
She's insane. Forrest, I'm telling you, she's insane. This woman she's a woke, to me it's obvious, she's a woke, far left-wing lunatic. I mean, I'm sorry, there's no other way to put it. This is a woman who publicly has now said no human being is illegal. This is what she said. Every human being on the entire planet has the right to come to Boston. The right. That you don't have the right to deport anyone who illegally comes into the United States and into Boston. If 1 billion want to come, let them come. 2 billion, 3 billion, 4 billion, 5 billion. The woman's insane. And I don't know if you've seen her latest proposal, Forrest, but now she wants to divert billions of dollars. By the way, the city has no money for potholes, no money for roads, no money for basic infrastructure. Ask the police, ask the fire department how they're on shoestring budgets. No money for hospitals, healthcare, schools, basic crime prevention. You've got drugs now, homeless encampments all over the place. But she's got billions of dollars, billions, that she wants to give for lawyers to defend illegal aliens. I'm not kidding. So if you're an illegal alien in Boston, the taxpayers through Mayor Wu will give you a free lawyer to prevent you from being deported, or to do everything in their power to prevent you from being deported. And now she wants to flood the city with Muslims in the middle of a war with Iran, in which their new supreme leader, who's even more hardline, if it's possible, more of a fanatic, more extreme, more crazy than the old man, is now issued a fatwa on the United States and is calling for a holy war, asking all Shia Muslims to come to the United States or Europe and to kill as many infidels as possible. So either, honestly, Forrest, either that nincompoop, okay, that moron in the mayor's office, either she doesn't read a newspaper, doesn't watch cable news, doesn't follow any basic current events, or this woman has a death wish. I mean, I don't know what it is. Either, she wants to literally see people dead, or this woman got seriously low IQ. But, and Forrest, she ran unopposed. In the runoff, she had nobody opposing her. That's how much the Moonbats love her in Boston. Like, I don't know what else to say. So that's why I tell people over and over again, if you can, avoid Boston. Don't live in Boston. You're crazy if you pay taxes in Boston. Get out of Boston. Because she doesn't have the flash of Mamdani, with the way he touches his chest all the time and his heart and that sort of thing. And he's smiling and joking. And she doesn't have his flash and smile and personality. But she's just as crazy and just as deadly. And, she's going to turn Boston into New York City. Mark my words. Boston will fall under Mayor Wu, just like Massachusetts is falling under Healy. Forrest, final word to you.
And just to add, Jeff, we had public defenders not defending defendants because there's no money in the state of Massachusetts, but there's money for the Muslims defendants that are defrauding the SNAP programs here in Massachusetts, and also that they're blocking. Her and the governor are blocking the auditor to audit the legislators' spending.
And not just that, you're completely right. And not just that. I can just keep adding. I can only add to what you're saying, Forrest. So Diana DiZoglio, the state auditor, is now suing, Beacon Hill. She's suing all these state lawmakers saying, you're blocking the ballot initiative. It passed 73%. Open up the books. They're saying, no, go fly a kite. They're obstructing and stonewalling. The state attorney general, Andrea Campbell, is backing not the rule of law, not the voters, not the state auditor, but she's backing the corrupt politicians on Beacon Hill. So now it goes to the state's highest court. Now you got to listen to this. Andrea Campbell and the Beacon Hill lawmakers, those, corrupt politicians, they're getting outside lawyers to try to help them make the case that somehow an audit is unconstitutional. So they have the right to quote unquote counsel. And they can hire an army of outside lawyers. But the highest court just ruled, because then DiZoglio said, well, if you guys can get lawyers, why can't we get lawyers? No. DiZoglio was told by the state's highest court, you want to see how corrupt Massachusetts is? You want to see how corrupt the court system is? You can't get an outside lawyer. You don't have the right to counsel. The corrupt politicians on Beacon Hill, they have a right to counsel. Andrea Campbell, the state AG, she has the right to counsel. But you, the state auditor, you don't have the right to counsel. So they're trying to rig it that DiZoglio loses in court. And they're so freaking corrupt that they're basically saying one side can have a lawyer, one side has the right to counsel, the other side, the people's side, no lawyers for you, no right to counsel for you. In other words, Forrest, let me put it to you in plain English, blank you. And that's from the state's highest court. Forrest, my friend, what say you?
State is corrupt, and it's unsafe in Massachusetts, Jeff, and it's only getting worse.
That's why we have to beat Healy this November. We have to beat her. I don't care if we put up Mickey Mouse. I'm voting for Mickey Mouse. Seriously. I don't care. Donald Duck. I don't care. And that's why I've said, to be honest, I don't care who wins the nomination for the Republican gubernatorial primary. Whoever wins, I will back that candidate. Not because, frankly, I'm impressed with any of the candidates. So far, I'm not. I'm going to be very open and honest with all of you. But my Ashton is better. My Ava would do a better job than Healy. Pick anybody from a phone book in Boston, and they would do better than Healy or Wu. Because what you're seeing under Healy and Wu is the deliberate destruction of Boston and the deliberate destruction of Massachusetts. I mean, I can't read the evidence any other way. Forrest, dynamite call, and thank you for calling, my friend. So, no, they're itching for another Boston Marathon bombing. Have we forgotten already? 13 years ago? Have we forgotten already? It's shocking, and at the same time, it's demoralizing. And it's the woke mind virus. You know, you talk to most people, you say, what about the Boston Marathon bombing? They're like, oh, yeah. Like, I don't know, like it's ancient history. It was 13 years ago. You don't think they don't want to do it again if they had the chance? Joe in South Boston. Thanks for holding, Joe, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Joe, how are you?
Thank you for taking my call.
My pleasure.
We are at the crossroads of our own country. If we go this path any longer, we're going to be like Great Britain, Germany, and France. You know, it's crazy. Finally, some countries, Denmark and Italy, are changing. They're saying, you're coming to the country, you have to simulate. They're sending the kids to school, teaching their language, teaching their ideologies of their countries, what they made their countries from. But the rest of us are standing around doing nothing. We voted for Trump, and that 70 million, I'm saying 70 or 80% of Americans want him. There's that 20 or 30% that are totally against him. And they're good friends of mine, but I just can't understand how blind they are.
Well, Joe, it's the media propaganda, which has been very powerful. You know, to give the devil his due, the propaganda has been extremely effective. It doesn't stop. It's 24/7. It's on social media as well. It's in the universities, Hollywood. It's everywhere. You know, it's ubiquitous, as they say. It's rampant. It's everywhere. And they just keep repeating the same stupid talking points over and over and over and over again. And look, I feel very sorry for us, because if the left surges back to power in November, if they recapture the House, or God forbid, the House and the Senate, they're going to reduce Trump's presidency to rubble. He's going to be impeached again and again and again over nothing. They're going to defund everything, especially ICE and the deportations. They're going to try to open up the border completely one more time. And Trump he's going to be paralyzed. He's going to be lucky if he politically survives the last 2 years of his administration. And, you know, that's why I'm getting blowback. And I don't know why I'm getting blowback. I'm just stating to me what is common sense, but that's okay. People have the right to their opinion. Where people, you know, I'm getting blowback from people saying, well, Jeff, you're always worried about the midterms. Well, you know, who cares about the midterms? You know, we've got bigger fish to fry. And I'm like, you don't understand. If we lose the midterms, Trump's presidency is basically finished. And I don't want the communists to come back. They're going to finish what they started. We cannot return to the Biden years. In all honesty, Joe, I don't think our country can survive it. I don't, really, honestly. This is not hyperbole. I'm not saying this for dramatic effect. When I say we dodged a bullet in 2024, we dodged a bullet. You know, the communists are at the door. The communists are at the gate. I mean, look at them. You've got Mamdani now in New York City. You've got AOC. You've got Ilhan Omar. You've got Gavin Newsom. You've got Pritzker in Illinois. I mean, look at these. Look, you got Mayor Wu in Boston. You've got Healy in Massachusetts in the governor's office. I mean, are we going to put these people in national power? Hakeem Jeffries, Chuck Schumer? Ay, ay, ay. Ay, ay, ay. So we have to win the midterms. I'm sorry, we have to. That's why, people are saying, well, Jeff, I know you're not happy. You're a war skeptic when it comes to this Iran thing. I'm like, yeah, the major reason why I'm a war skeptic is I'm worried it's going to hurt him in November. That's my biggest concern, to tell you the truth. But I'm going to vote for him 1,000 times if I can. I'm going to crawl on broken glass to vote in the midterms. Because there's no way in hell I want the radical left to come back. And look, whatever, my feelings about the war, Trump has been a remarkable president, an incredibly effective president, one of the most effective presidents we've ever had. So, I mean, has everybody forgotten the Biden years already? I never want to return to that, ever. And what's scary to me, Joe, is that the Democrats do. You would think, in all honesty, Joe, you would think, look, come on, let's sober up. Let's sober up and get out of the bar. You would think the Democrats would say, look, Afghanistan was a debacle. It was a disaster. Let's own up to it. Opening the borders. Look how unpopular it is. Look at the damage and the death and the destruction it caused our country. There's certain, the trillions in spending, the inflation under Biden, the printing of the money, the damage it did to the middle and the working class, the failure of the Green New Deal, boondoggle after boondoggle after boondoggle, the fact that we essentially had an agent of communist China who was completely senile, physically, mentally unable to be president, owned by Beijing. We can never allow this to happen to our country again. Nope. We're going to have more DEI, more Green New Deals, reopen the border. I mean, across the board, women in sports, women in locker rooms. Sorry, men in women's sports. My bad. Men in women's locker rooms. I mean, just run more drag queen story hour. More trillions of dollars in spending. More disasters like in Afghanistan. It's the flip side of the mullahs. You see, and that's what you're seeing in front of our eyes. The Ayatollahs and the radical left, the Democratic Party, have formed an unholy alliance. They're all siding with Iran. Why are the Democrats openly siding and allying with Iran? I'll tell you why. Because the mullahs are anti-American and against Western civilization. They hate America and everything it stands for. The radical left and the Communist Democrat Party hate America and the West and everything it stands for. And they're just as fanatical, except one are a bunch of communist fanatics or globalist fanatics, and the other one are Islamist fanatics. And with both of them, there's no reasoning. Even now, just, if you had half a brain, you go, this is what our policies have led to. Our Navy is gone. Our Air Force wiped out. Our air defenses shattered. Almost every government building is now in rubble. Our supreme leader is dead. Nearly 50 of our top political military leaders dead. Our military is in tatters. Our country is broken. We're hated now by the entire world. Even the Arab Muslim states are against us. Even now in our own region, the people that oppose the war are now against us because we've been launching bombs and missiles and drones into their countries. And they're like, no, we're in the right. Really? Yeah, I'll play you guys the clip. They're going on CNN and saying this is a fight to the death. No, we're not negotiating with the United States. No. We're not going to stop a thing. And you scratch your head and you said, how can you be more fanatical, more of a zealot, more of a lunatic than this? That's what you're dealing with. That's why Trump is now saying, I think maybe we should just call this quits. Just call it over and go home. I can't find a suitable alternative. I can't find anyone in the regime who's semi-pragmatic. They've broken much of the opposition. People are afraid to rise up. There's nobody in Iran for me to work with. So, okay, if the mullahs want to continue, let them continue. But at least now it'll take you 10, 15 years to rebuild your nuclear program and your ballistic missiles and your ability to threaten your neighbors. Like he's basically like he's given up. He's like, there's no one there is rational. No one there is sensible. No one there has an inkling of what it's like to be in the real world. And that's my fear. That's the Democrats. They don't live in the real world. That's the scary part. Joe, final word to you.
My Lord saved Trump once. All I can think and pray for is that he saves the rest of us. You know, save us from what is happening in the rest of the world, Germany and France and Great Britain and Greece. I've been to them, and it's terrible.
It's very sad. It's very, very sad. Look, I will tell you what the Eastern Europeans say, Central Eastern Europeans, what the Poles, the Hungarians, the Czechs, the Slovaks, Croatians, Serbs, you can run down the Baltic states, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, Romania, Bulgaria. They all say the same thing because they have long histories with Islam going back, thousands of years, whatever, over 1,000 years. They said, you know why we don't have a terrorist problem? You know why we don't have 18, 19-year-old kids throwing IEDs in the middle of New York City? Because we don't let a single Muslim in. They openly say that. So you can call us racist, Islamophobic, call us every name in the book, because that's what the EU does. But we don't have your problems. So I don't know what else to tell you. And that's the attitude that they have, and they're not backing down. Because they have not forgotten the history of Islam spanning over 1,500 years. It has never been a religion of peace. It has never been a religion at peace, either with its neighbors or with Jews or Christians or other non-Muslims. Now, I'm sorry, that's going to hurt people's feelings, but the truth is the truth is the truth. And the sooner we recognize it, the better. 617-266-6868. Okay, I want to continue to take your calls, but I want to throw a massive log on the fire. It is one of the biggest stories in the world right now. Tim in South Dennis. Thanks for holding, Tim, and welcome.
Always, I love you in a non-sexual manner.
Thank you, Tim. What's on your mind, my friend?
Well, I don't think this is necessarily this particular war coming home. I think it's all part of a long-held plan that they've been putting together, the Islamists have been putting together for decades, which is now rearing its ugly head. And they're using this as the excuse. See, they openly say, and I say, don't take my word for it. A lot of these clerics, they said, we're going to take over. They said America will be Islamic, Russia will be Islamic. It's like you name all the powers. Now they've realized two things. They can't do it going toe-to-toe with us. But see, they have a great ally here and in Europe called the left, which allows them to infiltrate in. Because if anyone opposes them, the left will scream, you're an Islamophobe and you're racist, and everyone will back down. I mean, you look at Europe, Paris is lost. No-go zone, Sharia law. In the UK, London is on the verge of being lost. Germany is same thing. They're in the same boat. The Netherlands, Italy. It's like you said about the communists before. You can invite them in, vote them in, but they would never leave peacefully. They come in here and they're going to do whatever they can, to spread their Islam. And if Michelle Wu and Maura Healey think they would be okay, either they're unbelievably stupid, or I think they see themselves as being seen as heroes, not realizing that in an Islamic society, women are lower than whale crap on the floor of the ocean. Maura Healey would be thrown off a building for being gay. Michelle Wu would be sent home in a hijab and told, you stay here, take care of your man and your kids, and you shut your mouth, or else. So I don't think it's all really just the war. I think it's giving them an excuse, but I think it's this plan they've had for a while. And there's a really great speaker who got away from the Muslims in Somalia. She lives here now. Her name's like Ayan
Hirsi Ali. Yeah, Ayan Hirsi Ali. She's excellent.
If they ever got their hands on her, they would behead her for what they call apostasy. And yet she's willing to speak the truth about what these people are doing. They've said, we're going to take over. We're going, and as far as like, they don't care what happens to the Iranians. They don't care what happens in Palestine. All they care about is getting rid of the Jews. They don't care what happens to Palestinians. In Iran, the only problem they have with this is that non-Muslims are killing them. They have no problems with Muslims killing each other. It's when someone else does, but that doesn't mean they really care about what's going on with them.
Well, Tim, you've hit a lot of points, and every single one, by the way, spot on target, every single one. And look, Tim, this is a phenomenon. I think I want to devote a whole show to it. I'm just going to touch on it, but it really needs 4 hours, maybe even several shows. The left and the Democrats allying with Iran, we get that. Radical Islam, we get that. But in particular, okay, the strongest constituency in favor of Mamdani, in favor of Ilhan Omar, in favor of the Ayatollahs right now. And by the way, same thing with the anti-ICE protesters. Okay, when you went to go to Minneapolis, overwhelmingly liberal white women. Not just women, but liberal educated or college educated white women. It doesn't matter. Young, middle-aged, old. For whatever reason, they're the most rabid anti-ICE activists, and they're the biggest Mamdani supporters, and now the ones that are on the streets protesting, for example, in New York over the weekend, the IEDs that nearly were detonated, that's kind of blown everything else off the radar. But Mamdani supporters, overwhelmingly liberal white women, took to the streets and said, now Iran's missiles will fly. In the wake of the Ayatollah, the Supreme Leader Khamenei being taken out. So you have liberal, white, feminist women crying and rallying to the Supreme Leader of Iran, who all he does is oppress women. And there's an image, I can't get this out of my mind. It's these liberal women. I don't know where it is. I don't know if it's in Minnesota or New York or even here in Massachusetts, but there's a lot of them. And they're in a circle, like at a park. And they're being led by this, like one of the protest leaders, and then another white liberal woman. And they're just, it's rage. Like, it's literally rage. The woman that leads them going, ah! And then the rest of them follow. Ah! Like their face is red, their eyes are bulging, they're foaming at the mouth. It's this almost limitless, pent-up, unbridled hatred and rage. And I'm like, where is this coming from? Kim in Danvers. Thanks for holding, Kim, and welcome.
Thanks, Jeff. I appreciate you taking my call.
My pleasure, Kim.
So I just called to read this. I'm only going to be brief, but I think it's impactful. And just for the record, I've lived in Massachusetts and the United States my entire life, and I have never seen the likes of what's going on. But let me read this to you. The forest was shrinking, but the trees kept voting for the axe. So the axe was clever and convinced the trees that because his handle was made of wood, he was one of them.
That's very powerful. It's very profound and it's very powerful. And Kim, just to touch on what I talked about last segment, I'm getting a lot of reaction to what I said about liberal white women. And, these videos that are showing up everywhere, this rage against ICE, against Trump, against the war with Iran, how they're openly siding with the Ayatollahs, how they're backing Mamdani all the way and supporting him. And I'm just curious, Kim, why is it liberal, white, and many of them college-educated women, feminists, why are they defending the mullahs? Why are they defending the oppression of women, women in hijabs? Women can't drive, women can't go to university, women can't go to school. Women really are treated almost less than dogs, less than animals. And yet they're ferociously defending this regime and people like Mamdani who want to impose Sharia law. Do you have a theory on that?
It baffles me. It completely baffles me because I think if people, you step back and really understand the ideology, which I've done a lot of research on, it conflicts what they claim. It doesn't make sense. It just does not make sense.
Kim, where do you think that hatred, that deep-seated anger, really rage, where it's unbelievable. I mean, it's video after video where these feminists are saying, I'm just so angry, and they're like, what are you so angry about? And now you see them in the park and they're protesting against Trump in favor of the supreme leader. Okay. And they were chanting, Iran's missiles will fly. Iran's against us. And then how do I say this? It almost like breaks down where they can't even make coherent sentences. And I'm not talking like 5 women, 10 women. You got to see them. It's an army of them. And they're in a huge circle, and there's one like ringleader. And the ringleader, I'm not kidding, goes, ah, with their fists clenched. And then the rest of them like a chant, like, I don't know, something out of the jungle or something. And then the women go, ah, and they go back and forth. And it's just yelling, screaming, raging. Kim, is it because they're lonely? I'm just theorizing now. Is it because feminism taught them you don't need a man? Men are misogynist, sexist, patriarchal, oppressors. Gloria Steinem famously said a woman needs a man like a fish needs a bicycle. So avoid them, don't have relationships with them. And they get older and they realize, having a companion, having someone to love you back, maybe getting married, starting a family, whatever. That's something fundamental to human beings, to both men and women, that men and women need each other. They complement each other. And is that it? Is that there's something profoundly missing? They feel unloved. They feel alone. They feel in some sense betrayed or misled, but they don't want to confront the fact that they were lied to and misled. I mean, I'm just curious. What's your theory? Because they're the ones who, it's like Renee Good. They're the ones blocking ICE. They're the ones impeding law enforcement. They're the ones on the streets defending Mamdani. They're the ones waving the Iranian flag. Persian women, Iranian women who fled the regime or their children say they can't believe they would ever see in a Western country, never mind America, educated feminist women waving the flag of the Ayatollahs. They go now we've seen it all. Their words, not mine. That's like Jews waving the Nazi flag. Like, what? You're waving the flag of the regime that wants to oppress you? Kim, what's your theory?
Married, I'll be 39 years. I have 2 beautiful kids. I have 4 wonderful grandchildren. I wouldn't change my life for the world. I have worked my entire life, through all kinds of challenges. I had a triplet pregnancy. I had cancer 3 times.
Oh my God.
I worked my butt off. So I wouldn't, but I look back on my life and I'm so grateful to everything this country has given me. So that aside, I've given this a lot of thought. Something happened, and I hate to bring up COVID, but it feels like something shifted during COVID, because I don't recall seeing all of this madness prior to COVID. Do you?
No.
Yeah.
Not on this level. Not on this level. A professor here, a professor there, an activist here, we would make fun of them, but not on this kind of mass level. You're completely right, Kim.
But I also don't understand, where are all these people getting time? Right? I mean, we're out here working. We're out here trying to build things and, better this country. Who's funding them? Like, how are they surviving? So that bewilders me. But, I don't have all the answers. I'm very confused. I often say, I just don't understand anything. What I knew, I don't understand things anymore. Things are very different.
Kim, I'm going to ask you this, and I'm speculating, and I want to say this to everyone. I am speculating, but, I'm like in the living room now, and I'm just like Grace and I are talking, and I want to get your take. Could it possibly a side effect or a consequence of the COVID shot, or maybe taking multiple COVID shots, that it's messing up people's hormones? It did something, not to everybody, but to a significant minority. I mean, I don't know. I'm just guessing, because I think you're really onto something. Something has changed since COVID. And now I'm asking, is it something even biochemical? And they're raging and raging and raging. And they're just like they become emotionally unstable. Final word to you, Kim. Is that a possibility, or you think this sounds like a crazy conspiracy theory?
Oh, and again, nothing makes sense to me anymore. I really don't know, but I will continue to pray for this state and for this country and for people that are fighting for, America. That's all I can say on that.
Kim, thank you very much for that call. Very honest and very profound call. What you read, that little poem, dead on. Absolutely dead on. 617-266-6868. Frank in Woburn. Thanks for holding, Frank, and welcome.
Thank you, Jeff.
Hi, Frank.
You know something? I love you in a non-sexual way, and I'll tell you the truth. I think Kim should get Caller of the Week, because she said exactly what I'm thinking. And then you tend to wonder about what Kim said, too. She is the Caller of the Week. Ever since the COVID vaccine, I think what they did was they made different batches, and some of the batches were good, and some of the batches were bad. So this way here, people could be whacked out of their mind and angry in this. I bet you she's right on. Right on. I thought this a long time ago.
Frank,
and you kind of agreed with it also.
Oh, I'm definitely open to it, because I think when she said, and Frank, I'm going to hold you over, okay, because we're up against a hard break. So please don't go away. We're going to come right back to you. But no, look, I've been saying this now for years. I go, something has changed since COVID. People are not the same. They're just not. Men, women, just in general. It's just not the way they react, the way they behave. I go, it's not right. It's just, look, I've never seen this. Okay, let's go right back to Frank in Woburn. Frank, please pick up where you left off, my friend.
Yes, Jeff, I'll tell you. I'm going to try to make it quick. But I've always said that I think you are the king and the ace of WRKO. You're the main guy for WRKO. You are the one who makes WRKO great, and you have the best audience in the business. It's true. Everything you say is true, and it makes sense. I'm not your smartest caller of all these people that call your show, but I can tell what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. And I think Kim, wherever she's from, I forget, I think my opinion, I think she should be Caller of the Week. And you tend to agree with her. I think ever since this COVID vaccine come out, they had a good batch and they had a bad batch. Why? Because this way here, somebody can say, well, I got the jab and I'm fine. So this way here, it's kind of like, and I think half the people that took the vaccine, or maybe 25% or whatever the percentage is, there's something in that vaccine that's making people wacko. Because I think Kim is 1,000% right that something about the vaccine, ever since 2020, people have been changing.
You're right. You're right. No, Frank, and thank you for your kind words, Frank. I really, really appreciate it. Frank, my only concern is if you lobby too hard for Kim, because that's how Mike is, you know? If you tell Mike to put someone as caller of the week, he won't do it just to spite you. So that's why, Frank, I hear you, but I wouldn't say it too often because that's how Mike is. You know, it's like you say, Mike, that's the caller of the week. Just because you say it's the caller of the week, now he won't put that person as caller of the week. Yeah, could it? Now Mike is already in my ear saying, could have been before, but not now. You see, then he's got to stick his thumb in your eye. That's just the way Mike is. But no, Frank, I agree. All kidding aside, I agree with you. I think there is something going on, and I want to look more into it. In fact, I'd like to get a good guest. Somebody who maybe the neurological effects of these shots on people, if there's been studies done, because it's just something has changed. I sense it. I feel it. I see it. Overall, as a society, we have not been the same since COVID. So, anyway, but that's a whole show. Frank, thank you very much again for that wonderful call. Okay. We are now at a watershed moment. So we're pretty much there in terms of what Trump will decide in terms of the remainder of this military operation and war with Iran. Late last week, he said he wanted complete regime change and unconditional surrender from Iran. However, reports are now coming out that most of his top inner circle advisors are urging the president to take a diplomatic off-ramp to end this war as quickly and decisively as possible for two reasons. The polls now, about a strong 50 to 52, 53% of the American public are against the war, so they fear the political backlash if this war continues. I'm just telling you what the advisors are telling Trump. And number two, they see these oil prices going up and up and up, although the last day or so they're starting to come down. But this is now the big development. The Iranian mullahs losing the war, losing their navy, losing their air force, losing much of their ballistic missile capability, losing their communication system, just taking a beating now from the air, are now trying to block the Strait of Hormuz. It's a chokehold, and it's a deliberate strategy. Why? They have now come out and said, we are going to block 1/5 of the world's oil supply from being able to reach global markets. And this will drive the price of oil, they hope, to 100, 115, 130, even $150 a barrel of oil, and that this will trigger a recession around the world and here in the United States. In other words, they want to try to tank the economy to cost Trump the midterms in November. And so his advisors, many of them are saying, you can't afford for this war to go on much longer because economically it may hurt you in the midterms. Now, on top of all of this, what has surprised Trump so far, and I said it earlier, but I want to repeat it because it's worth repeating, is that Trump thought for sure, like, for example, in Venezuela, like in other places around the world, you would find some sane people in the government, more pragmatic, interested in survival, interested in keeping the regime intact, that you would find some people who would be willing to work with the United States. focus on developing and building up their country, ending the nuclear program, ending their ballistic missile program, no longer funding terrorists and threatening their neighbors, but just focusing on Iran, its people, its economy, its development. To his absolute astonishment, and the word that he keeps using is the stubbornness of the Iranian leadership, of the clerical regime, how they just appointed a hardliner, the son of the Ayatollah, this guy Mojtaba Khamenei, who's even more extreme, more radical, even crazier than his father. And that there's no viable person that they believe can work with the United States and remain uniting the country. They want someone who can work with the United States, but will still be acceptable to most Iranians. And so, with the lack of a possible stable successor government, Trump now is starting to think maybe we should end this war, the quicker, the better. So he gave an interview, as I said, to CBS, where he said now the war is pretty much completely over, truly complete, as he put it. He said, we've achieved practically all of our objectives. There's not much left to do. Now, two caveats. He did tell the mullahs that if they continue to block the Strait of Hormuz, i.e. try to blackmail the world on this global oil supply that the Gulf nations provide, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Kuwait, United Arab Emirates, to the world, that he will not accept that he will not allow Iran to continue to hold the world hostage to them potentially blocking the Strait of Hormuz. And he's now told the Ayatollahs, if you do this, we will hit you 20 times harder than we have now. And in particular, he said, we've been holding back on this. We could take out your electric grid. We could smash your physical infrastructure. Basically, if we're only hitting military targets, but if you continue to threaten the world's oil supply, we could bomb Iran back to the Stone Age, where it will take you decades to recover. So he's basically saying, look, we can annihilate you. Back off, or we will. Listen now to President Trump saying, do not continue to block the Strait of Hormuz. If not, we don't want to do it, but we will hit every civilian and electrical and physical infrastructure target. Iran will be reduced to rubble. Roll cut 4C. This is Trump yesterday at a press conference in Florida. Roll cut 4C, Mike.
And we've left some of the most important targets for later in case we need to do it. If we hit them, it's going to take many years for them to be rebuilt, having to do with electricity production and many other things. So we're not looking to do that if we don't have to. But they're the kind of things that are very easy to hit, but very devastating if they are hit. We are waiting to see what happens before we hit them. We could take them all out in one day, but it's all resulting in a 90% decline in various things, but in particular, Iranian missile launchers and 83% drop in drone launchers. As you know, the drone launchers are pretty well shot.
So basically he's saying we're depleting them, we're degrading them, but if the mullahs continue to be defiant and block the Strait of Hormuz and try to drag, oil prices way higher and higher, causing a recession and holding the world hostage to the Persian Gulf's oil supply, he goes, we are going, as he put it, it will be fire, death, and fury from above. Now, the president is now saying, I may have to leave the regime intact. Not because I want to, because I don't see a viable alternative. Listen now to the president. He seems to be now changing the end objectives of the war. Again, this is him in Florida at a press conference. Roll cut 4, Mike.
You said earlier that we've already won in many ways, but we haven't won enough. What do you consider enough? What's your baseline?
Where they're not going to be starting the following day to develop a nuclear weapon. Where they'll look at that man and some other people from the administration and say, all right, we're not going to do it. They were not willing to say that.
Okay, so that's different now. That's not unconditional surrender. That's not regime change. That's not a new leadership in Iran. That's now what he's saying is basically, what do I consider as victory? I consider as victory that we set back their nuclear program for what, a decade or 15 years or a generation. In other words, they can't just restart it. Their ballistic missile capability, they're done. They can't deliver it for a long time. So in other words, we're going to neuter the regime militarily, that they no longer pose a threat for whatever, 7 years, 10 years, 12 years, whatever it is. Now, that means, and this is how it looks like it's going to go. No one knows for certain, but if you were to bet, Trump is going to clear the Gulf. He's going to smash this blockade to teach the Ayatollahs you can't block the Strait of Hormuz. He's going to reopen that waterway so all that oil from Saudi Arabia and all these other Gulf states can go through, probably with the U.S. Navy acting as escorts to all these tankers and shipping containers. So the world's oil supply will be protected and preserved. But he's going to leave, it seems anyway, parts of the regime intact. Is that acceptable to you? I want to hear from you. Is that enough of a win? Its nuclear program gone. Its ballistic program gone. Much of the leadership now decimated, but still hanging on to power. A weakened and wounded Iran with an inability to really threaten its neighbors for at least years to come. Is that enough for you? Or will you consider it a failure on the part of Trump? In other words, should he finish the job, go, knock out the regime, come hell or high water? Or do you think it's time for him to declare victory and come home and end the war? 617-266-6868. Finally, one other point. And this is the big question looming as well. The enriched uranium stockpile. If you remember, we talked about this just a few days ago, whereby Trump was thinking of introducing ground troops, maybe, to extract or destroy about 450 kilograms of the highly enriched uranium stockpile that he and Israel say still exist in under this nuclear site that was destroyed last year in Isfahan, and that they cannot allow it to be in the hands of the Ayatollahs, or God forbid have ISIS or some other terrorist group get their hands on it. Well, okay, you smashed the regime, you set back their nuclear and ballistic weapons program, but what about that Iranian stockpile? What are you going to do about that? Do they have to hand over the uranium stockpile? What if they don't hand over the uranium stockpile? Was then the war ultimately for nothing? So there's a couple of very big questions now hanging over Trump, but his advisors are now telling him strongly it's time for him to take an exit ramp and end this war. The sooner, the better. Because ultimately, there's no end game that the United States ultimately wins. I mean, we win militarily, no question. But anything afterwards, either you're looking at the Ayatollahs remaining in power, or you're looking at Syria. sort of the balkanization of Iran, a regime that runs Tehran and maybe the areas around Tehran. But then you've got other parts of Iran whereby, say, the Kurds run a certain part of that country, the Azeris another part of the country, the Baluch another part of the country, maybe even ISIS in some pockets. In other words, kind of the splintering and breaking up of Iran, which will destabilize the region and cause millions of refugees. And then Iran could start to break apart, and that brings a whole series of headaches. So what the advisors are saying is, if the mullahs do remain in power, the one good thing is Iran remains as a cohesive, unified country. You don't get an Iraq or a Syria. That's the big fear now. So my question to you, should Trump end the war now? Should he look for complete regime change? And the enriched uranium, does he have to get it or force the mullahs to hand it over? 617-266-6868 is the number. Now, very, very quickly, remember I spoke about the new supreme leader? He's the son of the old supreme leader, this guy Mojtaba Khamenei. And remember I said he's crazy. By the way, he's impotent. There's now stories coming out that he's been battling impotency. Apparently that's led a big problem for him having relationships with women. He's also a crook. He's got he's been stealing money from the coffers, from the budget, from the treasury. He's buying property and has been buying property all over the world. I'm talking multi-million-dollar pieces of real estate, including a very swanky residence in downtown London, in England, overseeing the Israeli embassy. So he's corrupt. He's impotent. He has a hard time getting aroused with women. Apparently, people ridicule him for that inside Iran, but let that go. He's just as hardline, if not even more hardline than his father. And he is now calling for no surrender, a fight to the death, a holy war against the United States, continue to block the Strait of Hormuz. If Trump wants to bomb Iran back to the Stone Age, he says, do it, I dare you. Listen now to this guy called Kamal Karazi, and he is now one of the top advisors to this new supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei. And no, they don't want to negotiate. No diplomacy, nothing. A fight to the death. Roll cut 13, Mike.
Is your side seeking, or will you seek, a ceasefire with the United States at this point in time, and with Israel?
I don't see any room for diplomacy anymore, because Donald Trump has been deceiving others and not keeping with his promises. And we experienced it in 2 times of negotiations, that while we were engaged in negotiation, they struck us.
So no diplomacy, no negotiations, no deals. Then asked, well, okay, what's your end game? And listen now, all he's doing, by the way, is echoing his boss. Okay, Khamenei, the son, the new supreme leader. Roll cut 13A, Mike.
What is your message to President Trump as we sit here, as the war is going on?
That means that what is important for us is the end of this game. And we are ready to continue that game.
The end of this game, you mean how this war will end?
Yeah, the end of the game would be the time that American and Israelis would come to this understanding that this strategy is not working. And they have to stop their aggressions against Iranians.
So basically, their strategy now is very obvious. Try to block the Strait of Hormuz, send gas prices, if they can, through the roof, economically punish us, take a pounding, just absorb all the punishment and then tell their people, we stood up to the great Satan and the little Satan. We have survived. We remain intact. We remain in power. And despite all the missiles and all the bombs and all the tomahawks, they were not able to break us. That's, if you can believe it, that's their strategy. To wait us out. And if their country lies in tatters, in ruins, they don't care. Because then they can crow and say they took the best that we had to offer.
On Iran, you called it an excursion. You said it would be over soon. Are you thinking this week it will be over?
No,
Are you talking
but soon.
about days?
I think soon.
Okay, and with respect
Very soon. Look, everything they have is gone, including their leadership. In fact, there are two levels of leadership, and even actually, as it turns out, more than that. But two levels of leadership are gone. Most people have never even heard about the leaders that they're talking about. So it's obviously been very, very powerful, very effective.
920 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. President Trump now saying the war with Iran will end, quote unquote, very soon. And it looks like maybe, again, it's a fluid situation, but he is now willing to leave the regime, or at least parts of it, intact. Good idea, bad idea. 617-266-6868. Verna in Arlington. Thanks for holding, Verna, and welcome.
Hey, hi there. Good morning, Jeff, and all of Kuhner country there. I just want to say hello to everybody, and I want to express being Armenian of background and knowing also Persian Armenians, Iranian Armenians, as well as the worldwide Armenian community outside of Armenia as well. Obviously, the Turks and Turkey tried to obliterate and eliminate the Armenian nation and country under the First World War, the Armenian genocide, as many people know. And under Muslim rule, one of their principles is lying, L-Y-I-N-G, lying. And that they utilize as a reason to further their goals and their objectives. People need to know this. I mean, I even worked one time at a retail place, and there was a Muslim employee that we were just having whatever, together, lunch or something. And he says, Islam is a religion of peace. And I said, no, it might be a peace among yourselves, but against the rest of the world, it's jihad. It's not peace. And they want to overcome, triumph over the rest of the world, as is, what you're reporting and other people are saying as well. So I think people really need to understand this, that the religion of Islam, the Muslims, it's not a principle or a religion of peace with the rest of the world. It's a religion of hate and war against the rest of the world to bring them to conversion to Islam. And this needs to be known. Armenians know this because of the Armenian genocide. They tried to kill and obliterate all the churches, the institutions, the hospitals, the homes, and everything, and steal everything. And this is their goal till now, unfortunately. They are human beings. They are children of God. And it is our responsibility to pray, first and foremost. First line of defense on anything and offense is prayer, and then action, whatever the right action is. So I am 100%, 1,000% behind Trump in this endeavor. And I just want to put that out there, and I just really commend everybody that supports this effort to rid us of the evil and the wrong kind of religious fanaticism and extremism here. So I just turn it over to you, Jeff. Go ahead.
Verna, I have to ask you, if Trump doesn't go all the way and have regime change, that he leaves this new supreme leader in power, and parts of his regime, elements of his regime in power, as he's now being pressed to do by many within his own inner circle, will you consider this still a victory, or do you think this will be a bad decision by Trump? In other words, do you want him to go all the way, or do you think he should declare victory and end this war now?
I mean, even this new supreme leader who's impotent, as they say, I think our responsibility is to pray. But I think we need to finish the job, like World War I, World War II, the other. We need to finish the job and complete it. That's what I believe. And that's what I would support him in doing.
Verna, thank you very much for that call. All right, Verna says finish the job. Agree, disagree? 617-266-6868. Maestro Mike. Where do you want me to go to next, Mike? Sonny in Plymouth. Thanks for holding, Sonny, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff.
Hi,
Thank
Sonny.
you for taking my call.
My pleasure.
Jeff, I'm a Navy veteran and I'm a Trump supporter. But I believe if we don't finish this job, we're going to have to go back in a year or 2 years. And even if we stop the bombing tomorrow, does that mean Iran stops, or their proxies stop attacking our bases in the Middle East? Does that mean Israel stops their bombing campaign? There's too many variables. We started this, and we need to finish it, and we might not have any choice.
Well, Sonny, what do you say? I mean, I'm not saying it's Trump's argument, but he's starting to make some arguments in that direction, which is what he's being told in private, which is, you know, yeah, they'll try to reconstitute their program, of course, but they've been so set back. They've been so beaten and decimated, and so much of their military and their nuclear ballistic program has been demolished that it's going to take them a long time to get back to where they were just until recently. Is that good enough for you, Sonny? Or do you want him to just go in there and finish them off once and for all?
Jeff, if they're going to have the oil revenues and they're going to be bringing in money, they showed you how they were capable of building 100 or 200 missiles a month. They start those programs up again, and maybe next year they're back to 200 missiles
a month. No, I hear you. I hear you. That's the counter argument. That's what some of the other people are telling Trump. Don't stop. CJ in Boston. Thanks for holding, CJ, and welcome.
And good morning, Jeff.
Hi, CJ.
Look, the new Supreme Leader, Khomeini Jr., the very least of his worries is worrying about dying, because he'd have little use being impotent with 72 virgins.
That's a great point, CJ. What's 72 virgins for him now? It's all for nothing.
The only thing worse than that, Jeff, would be if the population finds out he's gay. But seriously speaking, Jeff, the president made a big mistake when he said he was going to be boots on the ground. Iran is twice the size of Texas, with over 93 million people. I mean, it was a big mistake. We know where he's coming from. He thought he would intimidate them, but they don't intimidate easily. And that's what the problem is. They don't intimidate. They don't back down. If the president leaves short of what his objective was, he would have lost all credibility. You don't back down from your initial military objective. And that's what he's done here. The way he can get out of this is give Iran and the capital city of Tehran a goodbye kiss on behalf of all Americans. Line up those B-52s and those bombers. Continually fly over Tehran and bomb every building that's in that city. That will leave a lasting message for those people on not to play around with the United States of America without using a military force. Give them a week's notice. That's what he should be doing right now. Give everybody in the capital city a week's notice to evacuate that city, because we're going to turn it into rubble. Then he can walk away with his head up high having reached his initiative, and I think there'll be little that the mullahs could possibly do. I think that's the only way out here. That otherwise, if he puts boots on the ground, there's a very good chance we'll lose the midterm elections. Nobody wants boots on the ground. And as I said, the size of that country and the population there, it's not going to be a cakewalk. You use what you can in the air, on the ocean, to stabilize what's going on. Jeff, right now, we're using 20 million barrels of oil a day in America. We produce 13 million. What the president may consider is holding back the export of the 13 million to help stabilize the oil prices here in the United States. That's the least of our problems. But America should always, on a military operation, reach their objective. Anything short of that is a defeat.
Interesting.
And the president, on behalf of the American people, cannot be defeated. And just one more, let me end with this lightly on this Khomeini Jr. He might, if he's assassinated, there's a good chance he will be. And he follows in his father's footsteps and gets up there and meets Abid Allah, and he demands those 72 virgins. He might run into the same problem his father did, because when his father went up there and demanded his 72 virgins, Allah said to him, "Look, I have 72 beautiful women beyond that door, but they're not virgins." He said, "I don't care, I'll take them." He says, "But is there anything else I should know before I walk through that door with those 72 beautiful women?" He said, "Yeah, every single one of them has an STD."
CJ, God bless you, man. CJ, thank you very, very much for that call. 617-266-6868 is the number. Look, let me ask all of you this. Does Trump need to continue to hammer Iran for another couple more days, as CJ put it, to really, let them know that we've broken the back of the entire Iranian military? Maybe have Israel come in and grab the enriched uranium? Do you want to leave the enriched uranium behind, or is that too much of a risk? And should they take out this new supreme leader, Khamenei Jr.? Maybe knock him out as a kind of a parting gift. I mean, they'll find someone else, another cleric, to take his place. But in other words, short of toppling the regime, will it be seen as a defeat for the United States? As CJ put it, we did not achieve all of our goals if there is no regime change. I'm just curious. Now, just so that all of you know, this is breaking as I speak to you. It looks now like the French, the Brits, and NATO are starting to get the sense that the war is coming to an end very soon, and they want to seem like they're on the winning side. So, Great Britain now has given us permission to fly our big B-52 bombers from British bases, so to help us finish off some of these air campaigns and bombing campaigns that we now want to implement and unleash on the Iranians. Apparently today, it's going to be the most intense day of the bombing. Both Pete Hegseth and President Trump said, we are now going to hit Iran even harder to try to force the Ayatollahs to cry uncle and to completely give up the Strait of Hormuz. So we shall see. But the Brits now are offering us their bases so we can fly our big B-52 bombers to unleash, as Trump said, fire and fury and death from above. Furthermore, the French, Macron, has now given us 10 ships to help clear the Strait of Hormuz so that we can continue to keep that shipping lane open and to help us escort containers and tankers so that oil will continue to flow from the Persian Gulf, and these other Gulf states, to the rest of the world. So the French are now giving us a helping hand with the Strait of Hormuz. And the British now, after basically not giving us access to their bases, are now giving us access to their bases for our bombers to take off from to continue to pound and pummel the Iranians. So my question to you, is this war now coming to an end? Is when Trump says it will end very soon, do you believe him? And do you think it's the right thing to do? Or should he finish the job? 617-266-6868. Lisa in Medford. Thanks for holding, Lisa, and welcome.
You.
Hi, Lisa.
Hi, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. I just wanted to make a quick comment that I agree with CJ, and that I believe we should absolutely finish the job. I don't know why Trump is saying boots on the ground. We don't need another Somalia. This should have happened in 1993. It should have happened in 2001 from 9/11. It should have been happening a long time ago. And these people that are over there that want their freedom, they deserve it. That's number one. But number two, I read somewhere what Trump said to the effect that the United States has to agree to whoever they're going to put in for a leader over there. Now, do we really have that authority?
Well, we have to take out Khamenei, the son, the junior, and try to find someone to replace him. And that's what Trump is frustrated about. They can't find anyone. Look, Lisa, I'll give it to you in a nutshell. They can crush the Ayatollahs. We have the military power to do that. Trump, though, doesn't want to see Iran break apart, like in Syria or Iraq, where you have these different factions and groups and regions and everything is fragmenting and warlords and civil war. He doesn't want that. He wants a leader that can govern from Tehran, but basically be on our wavelength, work with us. He says he can't find a partner. He's looking for one. He can't find one. So what he's being told is, if you can't find one, just leave. If it's not there, it's not there. What say you? Lisa, we're up against a break. Do me a favor. Hang on. Bob in Saugus. Thanks for holding, Bob, and welcome.
Oh, thank you, Jeff.
Hi, Bob.
Jeff, I got a question about Maura Healey and Michelle Wu. They were so happy that they broke the glass ceiling. Did you know that if a female, 18 years old or older, went down to the selective service, which you have to sign up for, they cannot sign up because they're female? I don't hear any of these women saying, "I am woman, hear me roar," like that song from the early 70s. Well, how come? How come a woman doesn't have to sign up for selective service? If we got women in the military, we have women police officers, firefighters, construction workers, so you can't say that they're the weaker sex in that regard. But I never heard a woman said, I went down to City Hall to sign up for selective service, and they wouldn't let me do it because I'm a female. I've never heard that.
Well, Bob, look, you're right. If there ever was a draft in this country, they would draft the men, but not the women. And I think you make an excellent point. If feminists say that women are as strong as men, equal to men, the same as men, that's their argument, that they're, that they're the same. So, and you already have women in the military, and you have women police officers and firefighters, and you could run down the whole list. Well, then they should be eligible for the draft. They should be drafted just like the men. And, and to me, if we had to start drafting people to go fight our wars, I think we'd be fighting a lot less wars because everybody would have, as they call, skin in the game. But this way, with an all-volunteer military, I know I'm a little bit off topic now to your point, but with an all-volunteer military, notice, all these politicians, they're always eager to send other people's children to war. They never seem to send their own. And that's because we have an all-volunteer force. And, one of the reasons why we used to win our wars and win them quickly and decisively, overwhelmingly, was because we had the draft. Everybody's child, well, then it was just men, but everybody's son, everybody's father, everybody's uncle, everybody's nephew, everybody, everybody, they were on the front lines. So the whole country said, you better win fast, and you better win with overwhelming power and strength. And now we have an all-volunteer military, less than 1% of the population, and they constantly bear the brunt of war after war after war, deployment after deployment after deployment. And that's why, when I said no U.S. boots on the ground, I meant it. Go send your son to fight and die. Go send your daughter to fight and die. Why are we sending our sons and daughters to fight and die? But no, Bob, I think you make an absolutely excellent point. Women should be in the draft just like the men. I'm sorry, fair is fair. If they want full equality and they say that men and women are now the same, well, okay. Then they should be first to be saying, draft us like the men. Bob, thank you very much for that call. John in Taunton, thanks for holding, John, and welcome.
I'm sure I don't have much time. I know it's not the mission of USA or the responsibility, but to think that we would leave the Iranian people with the IRGC still intact, the military, they got all the boots on the ground to I'm just afraid for the Iranian people if we leave an Ayatollah in charge. And I know it's a tough call. I have no idea what Trump's going to be able to do.
John, my fear is it's going to be a slaughter. I hope it doesn't happen, but I fear it's going to be like the Taliban when they came back. I mean, I know the Ayatollahs haven't been overthrown and they're coming back the way the Taliban was. But I'm just saying, when Biden, pulled out of Afghanistan with our tail between our legs, my God, the Taliban, the way they went after opponents, people who worked with us, women in particular, what they did to women in that country. And that's my fear. My fear is because, look, there are videos coming out. You can see these Iranians cheering the bombs that we're dropping. They're pumping their fists in the air. They're supporting us as best they can from their balconies or on the rooftop or whatever. They're going to be hunted down, every single one of them. Look at the Iranian female soccer team. They went to play internationally, and some of the women refused to sing the national anthem of Iran because they're in solidarity with us and in protest to all those people that were massacred by those, those butchers, those fascist ayatollahs. What was it, a month ago? And now they've been called traitors by the mullahs, and if they come back, they're going to be hanged. And so Trump literally pleaded with the Prime Minister of Australia, because that's where they were playing, in Australia, and he said, for God's sake, don't send them back to their deaths, give them asylum. And Trump said, if you won't give these women asylum, I will. Now, luckily, the Australian Prime Minister has done the right thing, and he's granted these soccer players, these Iranian women, asylum. Oh, and God bless them. But I'm worried about those poor people that are supporting us in Iran.